welcome back to American Journal. I'm your host, Harrison Smith. Very happy to welcome my guest and tireless fighter for freedom, Laura Loomer. She is, of course, a well-known independent investigative journalist who you can find at loomer.com and on Substack at lauraloomer.substack.com. She's with us today to talk about confronting a group of neo-Nazis at a GDL rally, or some sort of rally. Again, you can follow Laura on Twitter at Laura Loomer. The website is loomer.com, and she's on YouTube at Laura Loomer as well. Thanks so much for joining us, Laura.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's great to be here with you.
Well, it's great to have you because we've been following your coverage of this neo-Nazi rally that really, it's not so much about the rally as it is about what you've uncovered going on behind the scenes and the rabbit hole that you've taken since discovering who some of the people were at the rally. Just give us the overview. How did this come about? How did you even know about the rally? Who did you find while you were there? Just what has your process been over the last several days?
So believe it or not, I actually had a hair appointment in the area where this rally was held. So it's called Altamont Springs. It's in the Orlando area, and it's where I get my hair done. And I had an appointment, and my appointment was scheduled for 11 o'clock in the morning, and my hair took several hours to do. And so by the time I was leaving around 3:30, 4 o'clock, I was about to get on the highway to drive back to where I live. And all of a sudden, right next to the exit on I-4 West, I saw a group of about 50 men who were, dressed in the same attire, and they were wearing masks and sunglasses, and they were waving swastika flags. And so I thought, this is really strange. I think I'm going to actually go make a U-turn and turn around and go film this. So
because as a Jewish person, you think, a tattoo-covered swastika waving white supremacist, I better go walk right up to him. I mean, that takes some big brass ones, Laura. I have to say, I admire that.
Well, thank you. Yes. And perhaps it wasn't the safest thing or the most sensible thing to do, but I don't know. I just felt like I had to go film this, right? Because the first thing in my mind was, okay, what the hell's going on? This is Florida. You see all these things all the time about the Biden administration and all the leftists saying that white supremacy is the biggest threat and Nazism is on the rise. And they almost look like Antifa, right? With the masks and their black and red outfits. And I didn't know who these individuals were until I started filming. And then I immediately recognized the guy in the blue glasses there. His name is John Minadeo, and he's the leader of the Goyim Defense League. And I recognized him because at Ron DeSantis' book signing, which was actually the first day of his book tour, the launch of his shadow presidential campaign several months ago in Florida, in Leesburg, which is not far from where I live, he actually came up to me and started harassing me in the parking lot. And look, I'm a free speech absolutist, and so for me, I'm not going to cry even as a Jew. When these people are screaming, I don't know what I can actually say here on the InfoWars stream, but I'll just call it out.
Not pleasant things.
They're screaming, calling me a KIKE and saying that I need to be thrown in an oven and that I'm a filthy Jew and things like that, right? So it's all audible for people to hear, literally coming up into my ear and my face as I caught on video screaming white power and other Nazi slurs while literally Zieg-heiling in my face. I mean, this isn't an exaggeration. Right. And so it's just very, very bizarre. And he had actually followed me in the parking lot at Ron DeSantis' book signing and was knocking on my car window and telling me to go back to Israel. So when I saw him there again, I thought, okay, this is really strange. But they had formed with this other group called Blood Tribe, which is a Nazi organization, I guess, as well. And then what really piqued my interest is, obviously, there were several individuals there. You had John Minadeo, and then you also had known neo-Nazi provocateur, white supremacist Christopher Pohlhaus, who was almost leading these Nazi chants and Sieg-heils with all these Nazis in attendance. And then I noticed an individual with tattoos all over his face, and he started Sieg-heiling while saying Slava Ukraine. But he wasn't just saying it like, oh, Slava Ukraine in an American dialect. He actually sounded Ukrainian. And so I thought to myself, this is really strange. Is this guy Ukrainian? And I started filming him and paying close attention to him and noticed that he was very animated and seemed to be a very key figure involved in this Nazi rally. And then, you could see them screaming at me, and these are not right-wingers. There's a clip that you can play where they started screaming, "We're not going to vote for Trump, Laura." And a lot of these people recognized me, and they started screaming, "Laura, it's Laura Loomer," like as in Jewish because my last name's Loomer. And I thought, it's really strange that all of these Nazis know who I am. I expect John Minadeo to know who I am, but all of them started, verbally attacking me and screaming at me. And then I started to think, what are the odds that all of these random Nazis know who I am, and I'm here by some, random encounter with these individuals? It's almost like some of these people are political operatives, right, in the state of Florida. And so then when I went home, I started looking into this guy, and with facial recognition and whatnot, I was quick to identify him as Boneface because there are several articles and previous interviews identifying him not only as a Nazi who was arrested in Florida in 2012 on charges of domestic terrorism by the FBI, which you can look up and it's publicly available, but he's also on the record saying that he has traveled to Ukraine with the assistance of the CIA to join groups like Right Sector in 2014 and the Azov Battalion in 2022, circa 2022 rather, to fight in the Ukrainian-Russian conflict. And so I think it's really concerning because what you have here is a domestic terrorist who was arrested by the feds in 2012 for paramilitary training and what they said was an active attempt to attack an Orlando building, okay? Right. And they had undercover informants who apparently had video surveillance of this individual. His name is Kent McClellan. He goes by Kent McClellan, but his nickname is Boneface. And so how is it if you're a domestic terrorist that you're able to get a passport and fly to Ukraine unless you have the assistance? And why was this guy not in prison? Well, we know because he made a deal with the feds. And this is why I've been exposing these last few days. And I was actually able to exclusively obtain body cam footage as well from an arrest that he had last year in Pensacola in Escambia County, in which you can actually hear the police officer questioning him, are you Ukrainian? And he goes, no, I actually just got back from Ukraine. And then the police officer, you can see him on this body cam footage that I obtained saying, it says that you're in the FBI terror watch list and I need to contact Border Patrol and FBI to get your file.
Yeah, basically confirming everything you said. We're going to play that video on the other side. We're about to go to a commercial break, but I really think you may have uncovered a couple different things going on here that I want to break down with you. Not only that the people that keep telling us that white supremacist terror is the greatest threat seem to be actually embedded with and involved in promoting and allowing these people to do things, but also that they were involved in January 6th. I mean, you have really taken the lid off of a Pandora's box here, and I'm excited to see where this goes. And yeah, we'll cover it all. We'll show you that video when we get back to Laura Loomer. Go to loomer.com to see her website. She's on Twitter at Laura Loomer, where she's been publishing all of this information as she finds it, and it's really been a thrilling research investigation going on. We'll be right back with Laura Loomer. Laura Loomer, I've been following her Twitter for the last few days, eagerly awaiting the latest update in her research into this neo-Nazi group in Florida. And let me just start by making a point that, I really appreciate your view, and it's the same view we have here, that the value of free speech is so great that it's worth it. It's worth it to have all of the people that you hate or that hate you, they have to be able to speak freely. You got to deal with the Antifa rallies, you got to deal with the Nazi rallies. Even if you vehemently disagree with them, you have to understand that their ability to speak freely and say things that the vast majority dislike or hate or discuss them It's just what you got. It's just what you have to deal with because you value free speech, because you love free speech, because you understand that all of this comes with it. I'm less offended by the Nazi symbol as I am the Nazi tactics of silencing anybody who disagrees with the government. So I think it's a valuable point of view that some people don't have anymore. They say, well, the Nazis are too dangerous to let have free speech. And it's like, gee, that sounds like something a Nazi would say. It's kind of bizarre. So I don't want to get off on that tangent because I do want to go to this video that you have. Do you want to set this video up for us? This is the body cam footage of police when arresting Kent Boneface McClellan, who was at that Nazi rally. When were they arresting him and what were they arresting him for? Do you know?
Yeah, so this video was from last year, actually, and I posted the police report to go along with it. And I posted this video because there were individuals who were trying to say, oh, he was never in Ukraine, and oh, he's not really a Nazi, and oh, he's not really a Fed, he's not really protected by the government. And so I was able to obtain this police body cam footage from an encounter he had in Escambia County near Pensacola, Florida, with a sheriff's officer. And you can see the video in which the officer is asking him questions. He asks him to identify himself. And then on top of that, the officer is looking at his registry, his database, and his files in his police cruiser. And you actually hear the officer say, are you Ukrainian? And then he tells Kent McClellan, aka Boneface, that he's in a terrorist database, to which McClellan says he knows and he's laughing about because he's protected and why should he care, right? And then you also hear the police officer then say, oh, well, it says I need to contact FBI and I need to contact Border Patrol for you. And McClellan is just completely unfazed. And why would he be completely unfazed unless he's protected? So you can play the clip because it's important for people to see this. It's not a conspiracy theory.
No, it's all proven. Let's go now to this body cam footage of Kent Boneface McClellan being arrested. Here it is.
All right, that's pretty solid. So we think that's his real name? I put in Kent. I played with Kent and nothing came up when I looked up the first time. I haven't tried to check it. Have you ever been in trouble in Escambia County before? No. What can I say?
You're looking him up in the database.
I think black. You know your driver's license number? No, sir, not. Spell your last name. First name? Middle name? Birthday? What? What was the other thing?
For a radio viewers, we're seeing the police officer in his cab scrolling through database.
This is a contact the screening center. Oh, yeah, my bad. You've never seen that before? Arms, dangerous, violence, indices. Still in. You got Border Patrol phone number on this. What's that? You got Border Patrol phone number on this. Really? Are you from Ukraine? This is the contact FBI. We can count as him.
We'll do it.
Well, that's escalated from a...
Call in. Technically, we're going to call FBI.
Okay, so there is the video that Laura Loomer uncovered through a Freedom of Information Act request, body cam footage of an arrest made last year. And this is getting a lot of attention, actually. I just saw General Mike Flynn has responded to this, saying Laura Loomer has exposed something so outrageous and so fundamentally wrong within our U.S. government intelligence and federal law enforcement communities, as well as the dark places inside DOD. He's calling on Governor Ron DeSantis to act in this. So what have you uncovered here? I mean, what do you think is really happening?
Well, exactly what I've been saying on my Twitter and in these various reports that I've been publishing. What's happening is that the United States government is actually working with and recruiting violent Nazis, domestic terrorists, and white supremacists, right? Everything that the Biden administration has accused President Trump of doing. So you see that Joe Biden launched his entire presidential campaign off of the Charlottesville lie. We also know from FBI FOIAs that the FBI identified Ukrainian Nazis who were participating in the Charlottesville March. And so these people are believed to also be federal informants. And those documents and reports have been published for several years now. And so it seems like every single time there's some really big anti-Trump movement or some movement that the deep state and the Democrats like to pin on Donald Trump as a way to accuse him and the right wing of being tied to Nazis and white supremacists, they somehow always involve Ukrainian Nazis. And this goes back to another thing that I exposed this week. And that's the fact that the FBI has been hiding the fact that a Ukrainian spy by the name of Sergei Devinin and several of his associates, also believed to be Ukrainian spies, penetrated the United States Capitol while pretending to be an official film crew with 1+1 Media. And so the individual who's one of the largest stakeholders in this company happens to also be a stakeholder of Burisma. This all ties back to Joe Biden and Hunter Biden. And the reason it's important to recognize this is because whether it's the first impeachment of Donald Trump, whether it's the presence of Ukrainian Nazis at Charlottesville, whether it's the presence of Ukrainian Nazis at these pop-up Nazi marches in various key states during an election year, or the presence of Ukrainian neo-Nazis who penetrated, okay? We're talking about an act of war. Ukrainian spies penetrating the United States Capitol, and that was never disclosed until I published this information this week because I was able to confirm with Jacob Chansley, a J6er, and some people know him as a QN and shaman, okay? He's one of the more well-known J6ers, that the FBI actually interrogated him, and that during this interrogation, they asked him, how do you know this Ukrainian spy? And they showed him a photo of himself that I published on my Twitter account outside of the Capitol with this Ukrainian spy, Sergei Devinin, and Jacob Chansley said that he didn't know him, and he didn't know him. He was targeted by this individual who came up to him and took a photo with him and published the photo. And you have to ask yourself, if they're interrogating American citizens who they jailed Jacob Chansley. He's out on probation right now, but he became the face of January 6th, and the FBI didn't think that it was important to alert Americans to the fact that operatives penetrated and breached the United States Capitol with a film crew, or what they say was a film crew. What did they photograph? Whose offices did they go in? Do we know? Is this why they don't want to release the J6 tapes? Because Ukrainian spies were inside of the United States Capitol on January 6th? So this is a serious issue.
It is serious, and it's a wild rabbit hole, and we'll wrap it up with our last segment with Laura Loomer. Stay with us, folks. American Journal, at Laura Loomer on Twitter. Follow her. All right, folks, this is our final segment of American Journal. Remember, go to InfoWarsStore.com to support us. That is the only way that we receive any sort of funding to keep us on the air, keep us in the fight. Things like Band.video on the air, it all comes from InfoWarsStore.com. Go there now, get incredible products like Bodies and Brainforce Plus at massive discounts, 20% off, 25% off Bodies, 50% off Brainforce Plus, and it is a Truth 360 win, helping to keep this singular outlet for truth, justice, in the American way on the air and available to our guests, people like Laura Loomer, who is... Laura, I think you've sort of uncovered a plan by the deep state. Tell me if you think this is too far, but just you say in your tweet, in the case of Kent Boneface McClellan, a violent felon, he was arrested in Florida in 2012 by the FBI. He was put on the U.S. terror watch list, and in 2014, he was recruited by the CIA and the DOD reportedly paid for him to travel to Ukraine in 2014 to join Right Sector, and then the Nazi Azov Battalion in 2022, which our tax dollars are right now unfortunately funding. I mean, it seems like the people that are telling us that Nazis and white supremacists are the number one threat are simultaneously sending actual violent, like domestic terror level people, sending them to Ukraine to get military training, and then importing them back into the United States where they're allowed to recruit for their movement. I mean, this seems like they're setting up a future false flag in order to then claim all Trump supporters are all right-wingers or all white people are Nazis and engage in war against American citizens.
They've been doing it, though. That's the thing. As I just showed you, they've been doing it since Charlottesville. And so when you look at what they did in Charlottesville, they used it, right? When Joe Biden announced his run for president against Trump in when he ran in 2020, he said, well, he has to run because of the threat of white supremacy, and he said that Donald Trump said Nazis were very good people. When in reality, Joe Biden's administration is recruiting these Nazis and allowing for these violent domestic terrorists to travel overseas to Ukraine to fight in Nazi militias like Azov Battalion with our taxpayer money after they knew, and they still know, and they haven't released to the public, Ukraine committed an act of war against the United States of America by sending Ukrainian spy operatives who actually have warrants out for their arrest, by the way, which I've been able to confirm too, not in the United States, but elsewhere. And the fact that they have not released this information to the public, and yet we're still sending Ukraine billions of dollars, I mean, it's treason at the highest levels, Harrison. It's absolutely an abomination, and it really just makes you wonder how long our government has been using Ukrainian neo-Nazis and operatives to try to destabilize our country and sow division and also push out anti-Trump propaganda. I mean, look at the first impeachment of Donald Trump, right? It all ties back to Ukraine. You have so much evidence here, okay? And it's really damning because Newsweek even reached out to the FBI and they said that the FBI has not responded to the claims, and yet they could have easily issued a statement denying this, but they can't, because as I've also shown, if you zoom in on the tweet, you'll see that this individual, Kent Boneface McClellan, not only is a domestic terrorist who went overseas to fight in Ukraine, but he was also given an Armed Forces Expeditionary Medal. And so our government is not only just sending Nazis overseas, and he posed for a photo in what appears to be a dead body of a civilian. So this is evidence of war crimes, U.S. facilitation of war crimes in Ukraine, and the fact that our taxpayer dollars are funding this, it really makes you realize and have to admit the fact that Vladimir Putin was right. When Vladimir Putin accused the United States government and our intelligence agencies of working with Nazis, and he said that he was trying to denazify Ukraine. And when you see this evidence and you look at these photos and you look at the videos and you look at the fact that this CIA operative is also returning to America where he's participating in neo-Nazi marches in Florida on the side of a major highway, I mean, this is incredible. And it's not like he participated in Nazi activities and then somehow became flipped and became an informant and never participated in these activities ever again. No, he's continued to carry out Nazi activities. And even though he was arrested in Florida on charges of domestic terrorism by the FBI in 2012, this guy who is a violent criminal and a felon who is actually going to be arraigned tomorrow. A lot of people don't know this. He has an arraignment at the DeLand Courthouse tomorrow in Volusia County at 1:30 p.m. For domestic violence and burglary, battery charges that he's been facing for an arrest earlier this year. And so it makes you wonder, right? Who paid his bail? Who's protecting this guy? Who's giving him money? And what's going to happen tomorrow when he has this arraignment in Volusia County? Is he going to be protected again and also given no prison time, even though he's a violent felon with a criminal background, including domestic terrorism? He also called me the other evening. Somebody leaked my cell phone number to this Nazi, and I received a phone call from him at 1 o'clock in the morning following the publication of my findings. And during that phone call, he actually confessed to multiple crimes on the call, including murdering people. And so I want to know why this guy is able to walk the streets of Florida and why our government is not only working with this dangerous criminal and Nazi terrorist, but why they're also giving him medals.
Well, and we saw on the body cam footage, I mean, it was pretty clear. They say, oh, well, there's, we type in this person's information, a little notice comes up that says, before you do anything, call a federal agency because they, have an interest in this guy. I mean, this seems...
And not only that, but the police officer in Pensacola, and I want to let you know, this area where he was arrested is directly outside of the U.S. base in Pensacola, the Corey Pensacola station, where they do a lot of top secret training and intelligence briefings as well. So it really makes you wonder, what was this guy doing outside of Pensacola? And from my understanding, I've also been told that one of the officers who was seen in the video communicating with the officer in the body camera saying, oh, well, do we know what he's here for? I've also been told that that particular officer in Pensacola, his assignment, his duty is to patrol the area surrounding the base in Pensacola. And that I need to look into this further, but my source told me that the guy they're seeing in the green uniform is actually the guy who shot and killed the terrorist who shot up the Pensacola base several years ago, if you recall that attack in Florida. So why was this Ukrainian Nazi operative outside of the base in Pensacola? And why are they letting him go if he truly is on the U.S. terror watch list? We just let terrorists roam around our military and naval bases now where they're doing top secret training and briefings? Is this normal in our country?
This seems perfectly in line with the modus operandi of the FBI as it's been since the Patriot Act was passed, right? It used to be when they, when Muslim terrorism was the big thing, they would send operatives into mosques to recruit people, and then they'd arrest those people and say, haha, we busted a terrorist, because in order to get their funding, in order to get the power that they demand and the surveillance that they want and all the things, the violations of our Constitution, they have to have a big threat. And if that threat doesn't exist, then they create it. I mean, that's what it seems like they're doing here, is they're actually empowering the actual violent, insane Nazis in order to go after a wider swath of the American public and accrue more powers to themselves.
And I also just want to highlight, too, with the recent jailings of January 6 political prisoners. We just recently, and yesterday, we saw the sentencing of Proud Boys leader Enrique Tarrio, who wasn't even in Washington, D.C. on January 6th, get sentenced to 22 years in federal prison, okay? They want to call him a terrorist. And so how is it that the Proud Boys leader, who wasn't even at the Capitol on January 6th, gets sentenced to 22 years in prison, and yet an actual terrorist who was arrested by the FBI for planning acts of domestic terrorism against minorities in the state of Florida with other white supremacist Nazi organizations, okay? And this made national news in 2012. This guy's able to walk the streets, even though he was just arrested several months ago for assault, battery, domestic violence. And the fact that, this guy is openly admitting to murdering people, and he's able to walk the streets, and yet Enrique Tarrio and all of these non-violent January 6 prisoners are going to spend potentially the rest of their life in prison. It really just shows you how screwed up our country is. And I think that it's going to have an impact on our foreign policy as well. General Michael Flynn, who of course is very respected in the intelligence community, he actually just retweeted my investigation this morning and said that I've uncovered something very sinister within our U.S. intelligence agencies. It's at the top of my Twitter feed right now. And so you have a lot of very important people who are tied to our intelligence agencies now coming out and supporting my investigation. So eventually Joe Biden and the CIA and the FBI are going to have have to issue a statement about this because it's coming to a breaking point. And hopefully they release some information too about the Ukrainian spy penetration of the United States Capitol.
It started as a bunch of creepy dudes waving swastika flags, but I really do feel like you've uncovered a much deeper and more sinister plot within the intelligence agencies to set up a situation in which attacks can occur, false flags can occur, and they can point to it and say, see, we told you so. We need more power. Incredible stuff. Laura Loomer on Twitter, loomered.com. Laura Loomer is the YouTube channel. Thank you so much for this, and I look forward to seeing what else you uncover. Ladies and gentlemen.